I've always loved hiking alone. Something about being deep in the woods, far from roads, people, and phone signals, makes the world feel quieter, cleaner, honest. But a few years back, I learned there's a difference between being alone and being watched. This story happened when I was 28 years old. I was hiking through a remote trail in the mountains, a route known for being quiet and rarely traveled. No campsites, no lodges, just miles of trees and uneven ground. By late afternoon, the weather turned cold and foggy. The trail markers became harder to follow, and I eventually realized I had wandered off the main path. I wasn't panicking. I had supplies, water, and enough experience to stay calm. Still, I didn't want to be out there after dark. I was eagerly looking around to find the way back. That's when I noticed it. A structure, half hidden behind trees. At first, I thought it was a fallen shed, but as I got a little closer, I saw it was a small wooden cabin. The roof sagged. The wood was gray and peeling. Moss crawled up the sides. It looked old, decades old. There were no footprints around it, no signs of recent use, no smoke, no sound. But the door was slightly open. I hesitated before pushing it open. The hinges creaked loudly, echoing through the silent forest. Inside, the air smelled like dust, mold, and something faintly metallic. The room was small, a broken table, a rusted lantern, a collapsed chair, an old mattress shoved into the corner. Cobwebs hung like curtains. It was definitely abandoned, or at least, that's what I thought. Then I noticed it. A window, set into one of the interior walls, not facing the forest, not facing the outside. It looked like the kind of window you'd expect on the exterior of a house. Wooden frame, cracked glass, peeling paint. I went closer to the window, but behind it was another room. A narrow, darker room. The window allowed someone in one room to look directly into the other, like it was meant for watching. The glass was dirty but still intact. Through it, I could see a second small room, almost empty except for a single wooden chair in the center. The chair faced the window, perfectly, as if someone used to sit there and stare. A chill crawled up my spine. Why would anyone build a window that didn't face outside? I leaned closer. That's when I noticed scratch marks around the frame. Deep ones, not accidental, intentional, as if someone had clawed at the window from the inside, trying to get out, or trying to get in. I looked for a doorway into the second room. There was only one narrow door on the far side of the cabin. It was shut. The handle was tarnished and dark, like it had been touched thousands of times. I stood still for a moment, listening. The woods outside were silent. No birds, no wind, just quiet. Slowly, I reached for the door handle. It felt colder than it should have. The door creaked open. Inside was the room I had seen through the window. Smaller than the first room. Almost empty except for that single wooden chair, a rope on the floor, and carvings all over the walls. The carvings weren't random. They were words, names, dates, hundreds of them. Some were scratched lightly, others were carved deep. I stepped closer to read them. One said, "Don't look back." Another said, "It watches through the window." My pulse began to race. The chair sat directly across from the window, perfectly centered. I slowly walked around it. The floor beneath it was worn down, like someone had sat there for a very long time, just staring, watching, waiting. I suddenly became aware of something. I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. Someone is here, not in the forest, not in the cabin, not even in my own head. I turned around to look at the window, and for a split second, I thought I saw movement behind the glass. That's when I heard it. A soft creak, not from the woods, not from outside, from the first room. Footsteps. Slow, careful. Someone else was inside the cabin. My heart hammered as I looked through the window. The other room looked darker than before. The shadows seemed thicker, and in the far corner, something stood, tall, still, human-shaped, but looks wrong. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just stood there, watching through the window, watching me. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light, a shadow, or my imagination, but then it tilted its head, slowly. I took a step back. Suddenly, the door to the first room slammed shut. The sound echoed violently through the cabin. I turned and rushed to it. The handle wouldn't move. It felt locked or held. Then it got worsen. Behind me, I heard someone is tapping the window. I slowly turned around. The reflection in the window was standing still, staring, and it slowly lifted its hand and tapped the glass. I finally understood. The names on the walls weren't random. They were people, visitors, hikers, travelers, people who had come in and never left. My flashlight flickered. The reflection flickered with it. I backed away, nearly tripping over the chair. My breathing turned shallow. I grabbed the chair and smashed it against the door. The wood splintered. I hit it again and again. Finally, the latch gave way. The door burst open. I ran into the first room. Against every instinct, I looked back. The window now showed something else. Not the second room, not the cabin, but the forest outside. And standing among the trees was the figure. I bolted out the front door. Branches scratched at my arms as I ran. I didn't follow the trail. I didn't care about direction. I just ran. Behind me, I heard footsteps, not heavy, not loud, soft, matching my pace. Eventually, I reached an open ground. The cabin faded into the trees, silent again. About an hour later, I reached a small village. I told people what happened. They didn't believe me. They said years ago, 3 men had used that cabin to kidnap and hide wealthy people for ransom. Police caught them there. They were given life sentences. Nothing had been reported since. 20, maybe 30 years. They said I imagined it. Exhaustion, fear. Maybe they're right. But sometimes, I still wonder. Who was really inside that cabin? Was it my imagination? Was the place haunted? Or did someone simply not want me staying there? Honestly, I still don't know.